Welcome to day 11 of our 30 days of PM challenge, where we look at topics around product management and the task at hand. A typical product manager does on their day to day life, dealing with customers, dealing with multiple users and multiple personas of these users, and building enhancements and features to your product, which essentially generate business value and help the product grow and mature over a time period. So, I'm Shagun, I'm part of the Nonsense, and I work as a PM in the B2B space, building products for SaaS organizations and catering to multiple user personas during my day to day job dealing with customers, right? A lot of the times when you begin, in essence, building features, or if, for example, you are trying to add a new feature, it's important to understand who the end user will be using this product, right? So, when you have the end user in mind, there are always properties of this user that you need to keep in mind when building features for them. For example, if the product you are building is mass market and is not really catered towards a specific persona, it's much generalized, you might have difficulty building personas for them. But yeah, you can essentially look at demographics and range of age range of users and things like that. Not really consider these as your user persona metrics to make decisions, but just a way for you to categorize users. So age, demographics and things like these about the user don't really need to be in the user persona to make decisions, because these add biases when you are creating features and looking at all the data about the user. So instead of doing all of that, when building user personas, think about a particular function or a particular category of users that belong, that you can group together, right? So for example, in this uh, in this article today, we are looking at Janet, who is a family planner, right? We can look at a few details about persona of Janet. What does she do? What are her motivations? What are her frustration? And how you can solve for those frustrations, right? And it's essentially a way to put together data around a specific user and find out similar users that match the template that you have created, and group these people together and build a better persona, and use this persona to then eventually build features that cater to them. If you're building personas, for example, for engineers, and engineer, for example, a security engineer is your persona, you might want to consider ability within your platform to not just use the interface within the platform, but also provide the same amount of flexibility for the engineers and security engineers to leverage the APIs that are under running, right? So a lot of the times when building features and products for technical folks, they want to play around with the underlying framework of the product so that they can build automations, right? A lot of the times in B2B scenarios, when you're building products and catering to large clients, they will always have their own process in place, which they have automated to a certain extent, and your product comes as additional element within that process to make things easier, or a way to make things efficient through your product, and to make to combine the two, their existing process and the new feature and the new product that they have integrated as part of the process. A lot of the times, engineers and technical folks build automations using APIs that you already have within your product to fetch data or run some query on the data, right? Or run some operation that can give them the results they are looking for, or fetching to create reports that can be to look at metrics and look at data. If your product is not flexible enough, where the feature that the customer needs is not like the proprietary feature available within the product, they leverage APIs to do that. So it's always, when dealing with technical folks and technical personas, which I do a lot of the times, we have to make sure the APIs also do the job they are meant to, and not just focus on the UI and the platform side of things. Having a flexible platform, a customizable platform is well and good, but there are always some part of the process that cannot be automated or cannot be delivered in the most efficient way possible through the product, and that is where APIs and these other automations come into play when dealing with personas that work with or leverage or manipulate data. So there may be technical folks that you're dealing to, working with engineers. Developers are another sort of user persona that require a lot of flexibility and like to have control of what they are trying to do on the platform. Whereas something similar simple as the persona that we're looking at on the screen, we know that Janet wants to plan a trip for positive memories for her children. And if you are, for example, a travel advisor company or travel agency or travel or booking travel destination booking platform, you might want to look at Janet as a user persona. You might have her in the catalog of user personas that you have built to build features for specific, right, for these specific frustrations and motivations she has when using your product. So here we are looking at Janet, and Janet wants to plan a trip for positive memories. She's looking to plan the logistics because she is with a small child, and because she is also a mother of four children aged 1 to 10, and Janet has a busy life and often on the go. So she needs something that can help her plan quick and easy and also take care of logistics. And if things get complex, she wants an easy to use way to build have a trip organized for her that helps her capture memories of her children, right? But Janet has a few frustrations, as we see. So Janet feels like she has very little time on spend to spend on planning. So planning is one of her frustrations. Look at if you have something on the roadmap or something in the backlog that you can prioritize for Janet. It can be probably just tagging something or just looking at locations and having a workflow of the best recommended places for that place, or having partnerships for a specific region and listing all those information within your platform. And all that Janet has to do at the end of the day is select the location, and all the other things are taken care for her. So I mean, these are solution space, but even before going to the solutions, you always have to look at problems. And one of the problems that we see and from her frustrations is that she has very little time to plan, but she is looking to plan a trip, but due to her work constraints and also her busy life, she's not able to do so, which becomes a frustration. Janet is also rarely home and needs a solution that will allow her easily to work. And she doesn't want to spend time looking up guides where when she gets to her destination. She wants everything planned, or outsource or hire a product that does the planning, the scheduling, the management of things, and the logistics involved when planning a trip. So look at that, look at her everyday activities, look at her device usage and internet usage, where for example, if you actually really have a product that solves or a feature that solves for it, look, you can look at this data about Janet or the persona and target her ads or target her marketing material to reach out, so that you have better success in converting personas that match that of Janet and have them as customers on your platform. So this is, now you see the importance of user persona. It's not just helpful for the product teams, but it's also helpful for sales, for your marketing teams to target and also provide more information and have more touch points with Janet and personas that match that of Janet. So this is how user personas are helpful in building product features and making decisions, and often figuring out what needs to be built next. But taking a closer look, this is another example of user persona that we have given. And let's now understand, we've talked a lot about user personas. Why do we need them, right? A lot of the times when doing research and building features, you have to keep someone, an end user in mind who you are planning the feature to be built for, right? And that is why you want to have a persona in mind and have a few pointers about what a typical user using your product would look like, and then build products and features around that. So it's not only helpful in terms of having data on the user, but also understanding their motivations makes you to prioritize and put features that can help meet their motivations and also solve for their issues and frustrations that have been given. But now looking at how can we make these user personas, first figure out who is the user, right? You can mention the user demographic profile here, but don't really use the demographic profile when making decisions. It always comes with bias attached to it. So, and also there is a similar resource I want to show here which talks about that. So if you look at this tweet, which tells please remove age, gender, ethnicity, location from your personas. None of these things cause behavior or thinking, but they cause assumptions, as I told. So adding this bias or this does not help your research when building these user personas. It's a good indicator, or it's good to have, but not really the metric you need to look at when making decisions, right? So this was one reference to that. And also, if you look at this resource, which talks a lot about user personas and how do you work with people and organize people into separate categories and build features for them. But the other thing important about people is figure out what's important to you and your organization, then you can dream up to build a much more powerful product that supports them, right? So if you know what's important to that persona in specific, if for example you have onboarded a new customer, you understand there was actually a need for the problem to be solved on a larger scale and optimize it through your platform, but also understand what's important to the organization of the user, and build support for them and build enhancements and features around that for your customers and personas. So this is another great resource which talks about user personas, talks about empathy when building these user personas, and how these personas enable you to think not just in terms of solution and in terms of more context on the user, but also on why the problem actually has arisen. And you it helps connect the dots eventually because of all the data you understand and know about the user. But taking a closer look at personas in general, right? This is probably the best definition I've found. This is more related on the UX side of things, but it also applies to PM and when building products, right? A persona is a way to model, it is a way to summarize and communicate research about people. So it essentially helps group a certain category of users into a single bucket and build features for them. Here is also another user persona example that is given. Here we have Tom, and we have Tom is actually a shop manager. He works at an organization. He has a few goals where he wants to keep the cars coming. He wants to reduce labor percentages without sacrificing customer. So this is another business metric or KPI he's trying to achieve. That is part of his business goals as a shop manager. And we also know that he has 8 years of experience in lube shop operations, and he has two young kids and wives and a wife that he jokes. Yeah, but yeah, these are details about Tom, and this is one way of categorizing and describing a user and their persona and what they are looking for. So we see that Tom wants to reduce his operational cost and provide and but still provide the same level of customer service. So if you have something that helps onboard customers and manages customer engagement for users, and is in this can help Tom, then build features for Tom, right? And reach out to Tom and users that match Tom, and provide your feature from the other demographics, not really demographics, but his details on where he is active, and reach out to him there and provide services. Give him like a demo or a free trial account to play around and see if you can help Tom along the way, right? And that essentially generates, if things go according to plan, you can onboard him as a customer or make him subscribe to a plan that you have on your product and build features and scale from there. So it starts small and start simple with the user understanding their motivations, what are their goals, what are they looking to achieve and looking to solve within their organization. Maybe they are looking for a raise within their organization, and for them to get promoted, they need to, for example, figure out how to manage and reduce cost but still maintain the same level of service. Might there be a way to automate things, right? Might there uh, be a way for providing top notch customer service by automating a lot of steps when it comes to informing the customer and talking to them on updates that you have on the product, or for example the service that Tom is providing. So this helps. This is why user personas are important when building features. But if we go back to the article, we have information on what does a persona look like, right? So this is another example where we have Fred, who is a corporate chef. He works at Boyce Controls. He has masters from Johnson and Wales University. He does not have. He's pretty. he's a beginner when it comes to computer skills, which he doesn't really need a lot of help or doesn't really require as part of his day-to-day job, but his key goals is to, I mean, get his hands dirty the way he used to. He stops in all six boys control sites as often as possible to stay in touch with cooks and cooking. So probably one of the key goals is he wants to learn computer tools but not at the expense of managing his kitchen. So he's looking for something that can help him understand and use computers or devices to manage or, I mean, provide better operations when it comes to dealing with all the branches he has to visit on a day-to-day basis and get updates from all of these. So if you have a product that can manage, essentially it's can be a sort of a project management tool that allows you to look at status and look at updates. So for example, in large cloud kitchens where they are working with airlines, for examples, and there are kitchens that are basically huge factories that pump out food for all these flights for a particular carrier. There are operations that have been automated. There are things uh, that are put in place so that every meal gets to the plane at the right time and is delivered fresh to to the attendee on the flight. So there are tools that are part of the process helping them keep everyone in check, keep everyone updated and on the status and progress of the items being delivered, if they are delayed or not. So this is how you build these personas and build solutions for these personas, right? And if you look more, you can go through this article which talks about how did the concept of personas actually come from. So it was developed actually by Alan Cooper in the late early 80s, where he was building products for a specific customer and a user base, right? So he informally developed this process, and where he was trying to eventually use the software he was designing and understand the mindset of people that will be using their particular product in the early 80s. So they and user personas still are used for the same purpose. You categorize model a set of users that you feel would be eventual customers and uh, uh, users of the product and build solutions for them, right? And this talks about how personas are essential part of good goal direct design, but it's also important when making decisions and when building features for them, right? So a lot of the times some features can just, you really don't need a UI, right? Just provide them a API endpoint to fetch details, can just solve the job. And if the user is technically savvy, you have a connect there where both the problem and the solution can be met by the proposed item and not really having a UI option. But if it comes to a novice or a beginner like we had Fred, it is important to provide the information in the UI and make it as simple as possible to access and make it very easy to understand to begin with. When so just based on the amount of experience and the experience the particular user has when it comes to using a particular product or in a particular field, the scales change a lot and the way the feature is developed also changes. So yeah, we have this Reddit post which has a lot of articles about user personas and the resources around user personas. But yeah, do check out this as well for more information. And for example, here is another message or a part of the message of this Reddit thread where the user talks about user personas are critical or else you won't know who you are programming for, right? Is it a grandma? Are you building the product for a grandma or is it for a teenage kid, right? So user persona motivates and helps keep everyone in check as to who is the end user you are building a particular feature or product for. And there are other articles as well which were linked. This we already have covered from the article, and this was another resource that is helpful on the six components, because a lot of the times when you start building these personas, these are very vague, right? You probably just look at some of these motivations which probably just are generalized across all your user personas, which doesn't really help. So you want to try to be as specific as possible, as data oriented as possible to provide these segments of users and build these user personas. And user segments or user personas are probably under the same bucket. As a terminology, they might be different, but the eventual goal is to understand and build a group or model of users that you can build features on top of. So a few components on making these more scientific and specific is conduct interviews, have observations, record these observations, survey as many users as you can, and have a large sample size when putting a specific user behavior into a specific user persona category. So the larger the database or the larger the sample size, the better you can categorize these users. And identify segments using a clustering technique. Cluster users based on a specific segment, based on, for example, if you have a product posed on the mobile and web, you can segment and look at analytics of users who are um, very active on the mobile application over the web application, and which personas are actually most active on a specific segment, and build research for them, and then understand why is that so, and if it needs to be updated, how can you do that, right, through enhancements to your feature. Determine key variables for differentiating segment. It can be on device type, not really a lot of the times you do it. A lot of the times it's about the job function of the ICs looking at the platform to get more understanding on the analytics of what has been done, what progress has been made for a specific section of the platform that an IC is working on, or where is the progress. So the goals for even two users within the same organization changes based on the hierarchy or the role that they play, whether it is an IC or whether they are at a manager level, or whether they are at the leadership level, right? Probably in the leadership level, they probably will not even look at the platform a lot of the times. They will probably just require access once in a while, try to look at the platform and look at a few dashboards just to get analytics on what is the top priority that the customer that the leadership team needs to focus on, right? So this is how personas are important. Both it can be based on the role, IC, manager, leadership. You can segment them on that and define the key variables as to, for each of these roles and these user personas and segments, what is most important to them and what are they trying to achieve through your platform. So this is how you can component and use these components, six components about segmenting users, looking at research, having a large sample size, predicting the segment membership, and personify or qualify your segments, right? Which out of, for example, five user segments that you have always, which is an important issue for you to look at, right? And which user persona should you, I mean, prefer when building features, and because they have more impact and probably can drive more growth to your product with an upsell opportunity, but also in other terms. So this is how user personas can be made more scientific and more specific, backed by data. And if you also look at describing this resource we've already looked at, you can also check out this resource, which is essentially a toolkit on for PMs. It's a PM OS is what you can tell, and it helps look and categorize various parts or various functions that a PM does. And here is a segment on
An incredible resource, I
user
think, for
personas.
doing that. We also have customer personas, which comes with everything you might expect, from pain points to core needs. This also relates to the customer journey mapping. So within here, we can work with our teams to map the journeys of our customers from awareness all the way through to onboarding and mastery. These link to the customer personas, so you clear for each persona what their customer journey is looking like, and a good way for you to then optimize that by thinking, okay, the onboarding is a bit clunky here. How do we improve that to maybe improve our overall conversion rate?
So yeah, this was one way to document customer personas. Look at the persona. Where are they in the stage of maturity when it comes to using your product? Do they need to go through a training session? Do we need to set up a call to debug a few issues or few things that have not been understood properly, or the best ways to leverage a specific feature for your product, and map all those out using these customer personas and the behavior, for example, a customer persona is having when using your product, right? So for example, a lot of users, not all users use the product in the same way. They have their own workflows and ways of going around the product and using it. And you looking at user journeys and mapping these user journeys to specific, and backing this by data, and and putting or mapping a specific user journey to a user segment and user persona also helps understand and gives more context of the user in terms of usage of your product and how their behavior is within the product. So this is about user personas. User personas are essentially ways to model and map uh, details about a particular user and similar entities that fall under the same bucket, and create features for these user personas so that you bring and provide value catering to their needs. So uh, you might be looking at an IC, looking at a manager, looking at a teenage kid who is on social media, or you are catering to a grandma or a parent. So in all these scenarios, the users are different, the level of experience, the amount of time they spend on your product is also different. So it's always important to understand the way to build a feature or the way to deliver a feature that, I mean, solves for their problem, doesn't make it hard for them to begin with, and helps them stick onto the platform and do the job the product helps the best to do, and solves for that problem. So yeah, this has been about user personas. uh, it's very important to look at user personas also. For example, when you are onboarding users, a lot of the times, let's go back to the example of three personas using your product: an individual contributor, a manager, and a leadership role user, right? All of these will have different objectives they want to meet with the same platform. So you really don't want to have onboarding that is generalized across all these personas, right? An IC would probably be configuring a lot of things, creating new things from scratch, whereas a manager would look at reporting and extracting data so that they can report it to their leadership team, whereas the leadership team would just be trying to look at the best way to, or the easiest way to look at metrics on how things are going, right? So onboarding for these personas are also different, so you need to take into account how to onboard them and the best way possible to get them quickest to on the platform to deliver, to start delivering value, right? So a lot of the times onboarding is optimized for the aha moment, which is the moment where the user actually sees value in the product. And a lot of the times with PLG motions, the quicker the aha moment comes, the better it is, right? So that it shows quick and easy value to the customer, and it's very quick to begin with and very easy to set up. And the faster the value is shown to the user, the better, and the better the stickiness becomes, and the better the product can grow in collaboration with the customer. So yeah, this has been about user personas and how to build user personas. You look at data, you also look at other details of the customer, but always make decisions backed by data and behavior of the user and build features for them. So yeah, that's been it about user behavior and user personas. We'll talk tomorrow and look at a new topic about product management and things a product manager does. You can find all these resources within our YouTube description of this video and this live stream. And do follow us on Twitter for regular updates on topics around product management and also product marketing. Yep. So that's it. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you.